And they put out signature Caitlin Clark balls and other merch that literally sold out within minutes of them going live.
Finally, Nike has recognized who the star of the WNBA is and started to promote the hell out of Caitlin Clark. Custom Nike Infinity Tour, 2 golf shoes. Recent backlash has led to Nike putting more effort into Caitlin Clark's promotion, and A'ja Wilson is not happy about it. Some fans still believe A'ja is number 1.
A'ja Wilson, 28 years old, 1,000 points in the regular season. Why is that not the biggest story out at the moment? And why are we talking about Caitlin Clark?
Why exactly? Why when A'ja was releasing a shoe were we talking about Caitlin Clark?
A'ja believes she is the draw, she's the star, and she should be promoted the most. But unfortunately, the stats say A'ja has been the best player this year. But when it comes to marketing, A'ja doesn't sell. That's clear to see. On the other hand, when Nike release Caitlin Clark products, they sell out instantly. When they release A'ja products, nobody even cares. A plain black t-shirt sold out within 1 hour.
A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. Well, she has come out and she has made some more comments, and it is like these players just don't want these new fans, even though the new fans are the ones that drive the revenue, plain and simple.
A'ja Wilson still believes she can compete with Caitlin. Nike said she was going to promote her more, and it's clear as day she didn't deliver and didn't impress. Now Caitlin is getting the shine. A'ja can't handle the heat.
Your play on the court doesn't always equate to how many shoes you will sell.
Nike is finally trying with Caitlin Clark promotion, even with A'ja Wilson trying to stand in their way. At least they as a company have finally seen sense. They know who the real star is and are putting their all into Caitlin. Let's hope A'ja doesn't sabotage Cece's chances like she tried to a few weeks ago.
It's noise that I don't really listen to, honestly, because I'm in season. I have other things that we need to worry about than what other people have to say.
Nike initially stuck with Wilson, keeping her as their primary representative in the WNBA. However, as Clark's fan base grew exponentially, Nike had no choice but to start paying closer attention to her. People were talking about her everywhere on social media, in sports media, and even casual basketball fans who may not have followed the WNBA closely were suddenly interested in Clark. Nike realized that this was more than just hype. This was the future of women's basketball, and if they didn't get behind Clark, they risked losing out on a golden opportunity.
And it led a bunch of these players to get very jealous and petty very quickly.
For Wilson, though, this shift wasn't seen as a simple business decision. It felt like a personal betrayal. But Nike, at first, didn't make any big moves. They had already invested so much into A'ja Wilson that they weren't ready to shift their attention just yet. Wilson was their trusted star. However, as time went on, Nike's hesitation began to wear thin. Clark wasn't just a good player, she was creating a movement. People wanted to be like her. Young fans, especially, were looking up to her, and that's where Nike saw the real opportunity. Young fans are some of the most valuable customers for a brand like Nike because they're loyal, they buy a lot of merchandise, and they often influence their friends and family to do the same. Something that A'ja Wilson couldn't bring.
Somebody coming along and elevating the sport shine ultimately benefits you. Go out there, compete with her, try to bust her up if you want to, and all of that stuff. Just don't hate on the acclaim that she's getting.
As Clark's popularity grew, Nike had to face the facts. Clark was quickly becoming one of the most marketable athletes in women's sports. Her ability to draw in fans wasn't just based on her performance, although her skills on the court were a huge factor. Nike started to see that Clark's appeal extended beyond the typical basketball fan base. She was a name that people were talking about in different circles, and that kind of crossover appeal is incredibly valuable for a brand.
We saw the jersey sales numbers. We didn't actually see the actual numbers, but we saw the top jersey sales in the WNBA this season. And A'ja, despite being a third-time MVP, her jersey sales were 5th in the league, even after Kate Martin, who barely saw the court the second half of this season.
This was a turning point for Nike. They had to adapt their strategy because Clark was bringing in new fans, new demographics, and a level of excitement that was hard to match. And when Nike sees a rising star like that, they know it's time to make a move. So they began shifting their promotional efforts toward Clark. But, as you can imagine, this wasn't going to sit well with Wilson. Wilson couldn't help but feel jealous of Clark's sudden rise. It wasn't just that Clark was getting more attention, it was that Wilson felt she had earned the spotlight. And now seemed like Clark hadn't had to go through the same struggles or challenges that she had. Wilson hinted at this in her public comments, suggesting that Clark's rise was due in part to factors beyond just basketball talent. This public back and forth had an impact on Wilson's image. Up until this point, Wilson had been seen as a humble, hard-working star who let her game speak for itself. But now, her comments about Clark were being interpreted as bitter and resentful. Fans who had once cheered for her were starting to question whether Wilson could handle the pressure of sharing the spotlight with another rising star. It wasn't a good look for Wilson. Caitlin Clark's rise to stardom wasn't just about her basketball skills, it was also about her ability to connect with fans in a unique way. Fans saw something in Clark that went beyond the game. She was relatable, charismatic, and, most importantly, exciting to watch. Every time she stepped onto the court, there was a sense of anticipation. Fans knew that something special could happen at any moment, and that made them tune in game after game. Clark's ability to build a connection with her fans was one of the key reasons she became so marketable. People didn't just want to watch her play, they wanted to be a part of her journey. They wanted to wear her jerseys, follow her on social media, and support her in any way they could. This kind of fan loyalty is incredibly rare, and it's something that brands like Nike pay close attention to. Nike knew that if they could tap into this fan base, they would see massive returns.
Is A'ja Wilson currently the best player in the WNBA? Yes. Is Caitlin Clark currently the face of the WNBA? Yes. Do I think if A'ja Wilson dropped a shoe and Caitlin Clark dropped a shoe today at the very same time, that Caitlin Clark would outsell A'ja's shoe by 100 times? Yes, I think that would be the case.
Nike started releasing products associated with Clark, and the response was overwhelming. Jerseys with her name on them were flying off the shelves, and even simple merchandise like posters and t-shirts were selling out. Fans couldn't get enough of Clark, and Nike saw this as a huge business opportunity. The real game changer, though, was the anticipation for Clark's custom shoe. Fans had been waiting for this moment, and when Nike hinted that they were working on a shoe with Clark's name on it, the excitement reached new heights. Everyone knew that when the shoe finally dropped, it would sell out in minutes. Clark's fan base was dedicated and passionate, and they were ready to support her in any way they could. For A'ja Wilson, this was a tough comparison. When Nike had released her signature shoe, the reaction wasn't nearly as strong. While Wilson had a loyal fan base, it wasn't on the same level as Clark's. Wilson's merchandise sales were steady, but nowhere near the sellout numbers that Clark was generating. This was one of the key reasons Nike started shifting their promotional focus. It wasn't personal, it was just business. Clark's fan base was bigger, more engaged, and more willing to spend money on her products.
Y'all stop being petty. Stop being catty, cause she like a double-edged sword. She couldn't tell left and right, and it's bothering y'all, and I see it. Let's go, Caitlin. Hey, do me a favor, CC. Send your favorite uncle a jersey with your autograph on it, and I will.
This kind of commercial success is what brands dream of, and it's why Nike couldn't ignore Clark any longer. They knew that promoting Clark more heavily would lead to bigger sales and more brand visibility, and that's what ultimately drove their decision. For Wilson, it was a harsh reality. No matter how much she achieved on the court, her merchandise sales simply didn't match up to Clark's, and in the world of sports marketing, that's what matters most. Nike's decision to shift their focus from A'ja Wilson to Caitlin Clark was not made on a whim. It was the result of careful analysis and strategic planning. Nike is one of the biggest brands in the world, and they don't make decisions lightly. They had been with Wilson for years, and they had built a strong relationship with her. But at the end of the day, when they saw the rise of Caitlin Clark, they realized that this was an opportunity they couldn't afford to miss. Players like Angel Reese backed A'ja, but the reality is, Caitlyn is the main star for Nike, and Asia had to step down.
Y'all stop being petty. Stop being catty, because she like a double-edged sword. She cutting tail left and right, and it's bothering y'all, and I see it. Let's go, Caitlyn. Hey, do me a favor, CC. Send your favorite a jersey with your autograph on it, and I'll wear it.
From Nike's perspective, this wasn't about choosing one player over another. It wasn't about saying that Clark was better than Wilson. It was about following the numbers. Clark was bringing in more fans, more excitement, and more money. Nike knew that they needed to capitalize on this moment, and that meant putting more of their promotional resources behind Clark. It was a calculated business decision, plain and simple. Of course, this didn't make it any easier for Asia Wilson. For her, this shift felt personal. She had been the face of Nike's WNBA campaigns for so long, and now it seemed like they were moving on without her. But from Nike's perspective, this was just the natural evolution of the business. Clark was the rising star, and they needed to invest in her to keep the brand moving forward. Asia wasn't happy at all, and it showed.
Seriously? The arrogance. People are going to consume what they want to consume and who they want to consume, whether you like it or not, and it's not up to Asia Wilson to let anybody do anything.
For Asia Wilson, this shift in Nike's strategy was more than just a business decision. It was a deeply personal moment. She had built her entire brand around her relationship with Nike. So when Nike started to put more focus on Caitlyn Clark, it felt like all of her hard work was being overlooked. Wilson couldn't help but feel frustrated and hurt by the situation. Wilson's relationship with Nike had always been strong. She had been with them for years, and she had represented their brand with pride. She had been the face of major campaigns, and she had embraced her role as a leader in the WNBA. Yet the reality was, she couldn't sell. She might have been the best player for years, but her ability to sell products is not there. You can be a good player, but being a star is completely different. Caitlyn has both of them attributes.
She's got one of the hottest selling jerseys in sports, y'all, according to Fanatics, led by the one and only Michael Rubin. Clark's Indiana Fever jersey is apparently sold out in all sizes. It was rumored that she actually outsold Dallas Cowboy jerseys.
Caitlyn Clark's rise to prominence has had a ripple effect throughout the WNBA. Her success has not only boosted her own career, but also elevated the entire league. Clark's ability to attract fans and generate excitement has brought new attention to women's basketball, and that's something the WNBA has been working toward for years. Clark's appeal isn't just about her on-court performance. It's about the way she connects with fans, the energy she brings to the game, and the potential she has to bring in new audiences. People who may not have followed the WNBA before are now tuning in to watch Clark play. This is a significant shift for the league, which has been working hard to grow its fan base. Sponsorship deals are also starting to flow in for the WNBA, and much of that is due to Clark's star power. Brands that may not have been interested in partnering with the league before are now eager to get involved, thanks to Clark's popularity. This increased sponsorship interest means more money for the league, which can be used to improve facilities, raise player salaries, and promote the game to a wider audience. Clark's rise is also helping to bring in new fans who are excited about women's basketball. People are starting to see the WNBA as a league filled with talented, exciting players, and that's helping to change the narrative around the sport. Clark's success is proof that there is a huge market for women's sports, and it's helping to push the WNBA forward.
And wherever she goes, ratings follow. The WNBA draft, the doubleheader to open the NBA season, ratings.
Wilson's frustration was evident in her public comments, and she made it clear that she felt like she deserved more recognition. Moving forward, Wilson has to decide how she wants to handle this situation. She can continue to voice her frustrations publicly, or she can focus on her game and find new ways to rebuild her brand. This is a critical moment in Wilson's career, and her next steps will determine how she is perceived in the future. Will she let this situation define her, or will she rise above it and prove that she is still one of the top players in the league? What we know is, Caitlyn is a huge star. She's able to back it up on the court whilst also being a major marketing genius too. This is something Asia needs to accept.
So yes, the WNBA was growing before Caitlin Clark. Make that abundantly clear. But it was growing incrementally compared to the exponential growth you're seeing now. And this is just data, this is just objective facts. Be mad with data, please do not be mad at me.
For Asia Wilson, this shift may be frustrating, but for the WNBA as a whole, it's a positive development. Clark's success is opening doors for other players, and it's helping to elevate the league to new heights. It's just unfortunate that some players don't want to see Caitlin's rise and don't recognize what she's doing for the sport. While Wilson may feel sidelined for now, the overall impact of Clark's rise is a win for women's sports.
Is not the reason. The reason is something that the WNBA's been battling since day one. Lack of viewership starts with lack of promotion. Lack of viewership starts with lack of networking.
Clark's ability to bring new fans to the game and attract sponsorship deals is helping to push the WNBA forward, and that's something that benefits everyone involved. Hopefully, players will recognize Caitlin's effect soon enough. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.